Hello and welcome to this recording of our latest Gower Society Youth event. Now unfortunately, if you haven't managed to make it here because you were busy or we didn't have enough tickets because we had to restrict numbers, then welcome to our video recording. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be exploring the littoral zone in Oxwich. We're going to be looking at the animals and plants living in the rocky shore and on the beach, and also some coastal foraging, looking at what you can eat in those environments. Now, if you want to come another day to come and see it yourself, please use this as a guide, and I'm going to hopefully provide you with some information so that you can go and forage sustainably. But please follow any safety guides and any information that I give you to help you sustainably forage and also do it safely. Unfortunately, I won't be able to use my microphone for this event because the cameraman's going to be roving around. I apologise if the sound quality isn't brilliant, and I'll try my very best to edit it so that you can hear properly. So please enjoy and welcome to our virtual event.
Hello everybody, it's so great to have you all here actually in real life in our Gower Society Youth event. So just a few things. I think everybody has signed the track and trace and the information sheet, and please find social distance between households. We will be heading straight out there as soon as I've done this introduction. In terms of safety, we are on a super low at the moment, so we're on really low tide. It's low tide exactly now, so the tide doesn't get any further than that really. So this is a really good time to go foraging and also to go rock pooling. So we've got about a 12-metre tide at the moment, so when we get out there it will be starting to come in. Okay, so we need to get out to the furthest bit as quick as we can so that we can get the animals which are just exposed when it's on a super low tide. We're going to be trying to find some animals that you can just look at, some animals and some plants also, but also some things that you can eat. If you want to eat them, most of them do require cooking. You'll have to take them home with you and cook. Usually we would cook them on the beach for you, but I'm afraid, unfortunately, we can't at the moment. But I will give you advice as to how to cook them. Also, on my video, I'll put in some extra things about what to do to actually cook them. Got a question? You can, and I'll show you all the seaweeds you can eat. The great thing about seaweed is there is no poisonous seaweed. So you can actually eat all of it. Lots and lots of really good properties with it, that's right. And of course, seaweed is quite easy to identify because it's the only plant living in that littoral zone, in that area where the tide comes up. In terms of safety today, can you please just make sure you're responsible for your children and anyone else around you? And we'll try and avoid the rest of the beach if we possibly can. We're going to start on the sandy shore, so the tide will be coming in, but it will just be over the sand. Then we're going to head over to the rocky shore there, and obviously there's going to be some slippy bits, some slippy seaweed, some trip hazards and all that. We're going to take our time nice and slowly and try and find some easy routes through it. We're going to be then making our way back this way the whole time, so the sea is going to be following us. So it means that we'll never be cut off, so we're also going to be heading with the sea. If you are allergic to anything, obviously seafood or shellfish, I really advise you not to get any shellfish and take it home and eat it. But anything that you eat that's wild, you obviously don't know if you're allergic to it until you try it. So, take that into account when you're actually going to eat anything. But as I said, you're going to be doing most of that at home. There are a few seaweeds you can eat raw, so if you want to try them on the beach, you're very welcome to. I don't think anyone's really allergic to many plants like that, but just please be aware if you think you have got allergies, take the tiniest bit possible, put it on your lips to start with. If you get a fizzy sensation, then you don't eat anything else. If you want to try anything, make sure you've checked with me that it's something that's worth eating, or it's going to be something nice to eat before you try it. Don't just start thinking, oh, I'll just pick a mix from this rock ball, because you might eat something that wants to nip you on the tongue, which isn't going to be that much fun. Okay? Yes. So we are going to head straight out for the sandy bit there. We're going to see if we can find some razor clams. Now there's some out there because we found one this morning. Takes a bit of searching.
And we found one of the fishes.
And you found some fishes. Then we're going to head to the rock pools and look for some fish. But the rock pools is the best place for the fish, really. So the razor clams, what I want you to look for, but we can't see them until we get to the real closest bit to the sea, is a hole in the sand that looks a bit like a keyhole. So it's like an asymmetrical hole. So it's like a circle with another circle, a bit like a figure of 8. Not a perfect circle with a cone coming out of it. That's a lugworm hole. But we'll go past the lugworm casts to the furthest point, which is only exposed on very low spring tides, and we'll look for those holes. When we find those holes, we're going to irritate them. Now you can try and stamp, and sometimes that makes them squirt up water. So you can try that. But also I've got some salt and salty water which I'll squirt down any holes we find. And the great thing about razor clams is you don't dig them out, they dig themselves out. So they'll start to use their muscular foot to dig up through the sand till they get to the surface. If you see it on the surface, just wait for it to stop. Then you can pick it up, but make sure you pick it up either side of the sharp bit. That's why it's called razors, so the flat bit. Then you can pull it out and then you've got a razor clam. But wait for it to stop moving first, because if you hold it all the way round and it then decides to go down again, you get a nice razor sharp clam shell going straight through your fingers. So wait for it to stop, pinch it on the flat bit, pull it over, and fingers crossed, I'm aiming for 1. And then hopefully we won't be disappointed. We're also going to look for some cockles. So we've got a rake, so hopefully Stu's going to do some raking. And then in the raked area, if you just use your feet or anything that's you've got an end to it, your nets, you can see if you can find any of the cockles. There's also lots on the surface. So again, you can take those home if you want to cook those. I suggest you cook them tonight. Don't leave them in your fridge for 3 days that you can, but if you can cook them tonight. Any questions before we go? Nope. Oh, excellent. Any other time, please do ask questions. I should say before we go, all our events are funded by the Gower Society, so the events are free. So every month we do have these events. Hopefully from now on they'll be in person. They have so far in the last few months have been online. So if you do want to find out some more about the events we've had, look on my YouTube channel, #NatureDays, and you can watch the events which I did on my own with a cameraman. So you can still take part, and they'll give you inspiration to come back and look for yourselves. Also, if you want to join the Gower Society, you can do that as well on the Gower Society website page. Right, so everybody's ready to go?
Yeah.
I do have some buckets and things, but I think everybody's brought them. That is fantastic. And I think we are ready. Excellent. Look. So these sea potatoes or sea urchins. You've probably heard of sea urchins.
Yes.
No. Sea urchins usually only have the tube feet on the bottom. These ones have them all over their body because they bury themselves into the sand like that and live underneath the sand. So everything. I think they're filter feeders, so they'll actually feed on whatever comes in. So plankton, anything that comes into the sand. And all around these tiny sand grains, there's loads of plankton. So sea potatoes are in the same phylum as starfish, and if you have a look at its test that you might find on the shore, it looks like it's got 5 legs that are giving itself a cuddle. Live in burrows underneath the sand, about 15 centimetres deep, and you only find their dead tests on the surface once they have died. They live for approximately 10 years. So this is a girl, she's just done a poo. So what I'm going to do, if you look inside her mouth, you can see her tongue.
That's nice. So disturbing.
And she's really soft, so she's newly dead. She's pretty newly dead. She hasn't started to blow up or anything. She's not gone that hard. She's quite flexible. Of course, she doesn't have any bones. She has cartilage, like your nose and your ears. So they're pretty flexible. So she's getting a bit hard, but not too bad. So I'm going to actually open her up using scissors. They're actually a bit easier to cut up fish because her skin is really quite thick. I'm going to go up her bottom.
So one of the interesting things about the nervous system of the dogfish, I'm not sure if any of you are fishermen, but they're really hard to kill. You think not most fish, you snap their spine and bang pressure on the head, and that does actually kill them. But their nervous system is such that it keeps on reacting for hours after. Like the stories about chickens that run around without their head. But these smooth hands and dogfish, very much the same.
Actually, you might have to get my scissors out the back. This knife is as blunt as... As it was a super low tide, we were able to look for razor clams close to the water's edge. You're going to be looking for. So between now and the sea, we're looking for this. This is a tiny one. This is a razor clam, and it's made up of 2. Oh, that's a better one! Brilliant! I'm just going to open it up. So it's a bivalve, which means it's got 2 shells, but they'll be clamped tight, and inside, you can have it in a sec, actually. And then inside there's this great big muscular foot, this white muscular foot, and that's what gets it to dig down and dig up. And there's no way we can dig as fast as these. So if we find a hole which looks like a keyhole or a figure of 8, give me a shout and I'll put some salty water or some salt on it. Then you need to watch that hole and see if anything bubbles up and then see if it starts to come up, okay? So we're on the search. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for their twigs. It's called a razor clam.
Oh, they found another one.
Coming up. There you go.
They found another one. Another one. Yes. Just went down.
So leave it be. Okay.
Is it another one?
Yeah, it definitely is another one.
We squirted super salty water down the keyhole-shaped holes and then sprinkled the top with salt and waited to see if we can see anything coming up.
Right, Mark.
Yes! Yes! Yes, it's coming! Oh. What's that?
Put some more salt on it. It's not
We might
coming.
need some more
Yeah,
salt.
so if they don't come up to the surface, just leave them be and get moving.
That one? Oh, it's definitely.
There it is.
Yes, it came up!
Okay, don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it until it's fully up. That was funny.
I don't think I like the look of you. It's gone back down again.
Whoa!
That's squirt water.
It's so in the water. It's so deep. Whoa!
Definitely irritated.
Yes, it's getting up.
Here he comes.
Oh my gosh!
Did you see that?
Oh, stop.
Does it come up?
That's what you had. It was frightened. Come on, razor clam. Come on. Yeah. Razor, 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 razor.
So what he's trying to do now is he's trying to dig in the air. And obviously it's not working. So that's his. So if I show you his end. So they will drop bits of them, a bit like a lizard will drop its tail. And you can see how big this foot is now.
What is that?
So this is what we've been looking for. So that's the siphon. So that is where it gets all its food and all its water and all its air out of there. Oh, see, imagine.
It's a black hole.
And that's its foot that it's going to dig down with.
It definitely is.
And all you have to do is you can cook these just like mussels. And imagine how much you can get in terms of food from one of those compared to mussels. So they're really effective.
Oh my god!
So that's his foot. That is his foot. So he's trying to dig. He's trying to dig back down. That's what he's going fat. So he's pulling against the sand so he can pull himself down. But obviously there's no sand there. It's air. It doesn't work in air.
That is like a slimy, slippery.
No eyeballs. No eyeballs. And that's his foot.
They're actually really nice to eat.
They're really tasty.
Can you show what's going down?
Yeah, so once everyone's had a look, has everyone had a look? Yeah, I've got a whole video. What I'll do is I will put him here and you can just see how fast they can dig down when they want to. So he probably won't dig at all.
Probably won't dig now.
No.
It could be that he's given up, but let's see. Are you going to go down? I do this with lugworm and they just stay on the surface and get eaten. But you can see there bits of it that he's dropped off.
He's
But
trying.
oh, there we go. Go down that way.
He looks like a paintbrush. Really looks like some sort of. He's gonna kill himself. Come on. He looks like a snake hiding in a shell. Don't push
So the
him.
salt that we put inside it irritates his skin, and that's why he comes to the surface. Because it seems a bit of a problem if you don't like salt and you're living in the sea. But it's that.
That's a bit stupid.
It's extra salty.
But it's extra salty.
Human salty.
So you've got it as you can't just use salt water from the sea. You've got to get extra. That is a bit of him. That is a bit of him. But he will grow it back. So a lot of these animals are really good at basically growing back parts of their body.
I found things.
So you see here fish.
He can probably sense vibrations.
Yeah, they do. Because if you do run up and down the beach, you see them squirting up because that's them trying to dig down as fast as they can.
Well, if we stop our feet, we try digging down
Might
So,
do.
one method of actually getting them up is to actually set the feet, look for the water, and then put the salt where the water squirts up.
Yeah, but you could never dig as fast as they can dig
My
down.
legs are all wet now.
I'm trying to get it too.
It'll take it.
I think it's going to take its time. It's probably feeling a bit ill after.
If you're harvesting shellfish such as razor clams, be aware that you are not allowed to do it commercially. You should only do it for yourself and for your own consumption. So don't take more than you're going to eat, and if you are going to eat them, try and eat them straight away or leave them in fresh water overnight. Try not to leave them too long before you eat them. You should also only try and harvest bivalves and shellfish in the months that have an R in it. Through the summer months, you can have algal blooms and the toxins get absorbed into the bivalves and they get accumulated there, which means that the bivalves are not good to eat. Also, through this time, they're reproducing, and this changes the texture and the taste of the bivalve, so it doesn't taste as good. It also means that it gives them the opportunity to breed and to replace the ones that you've been harvesting.
It's alive.
So each of those they can use move independently, and that means that he can actually grab hold of things and pull them apart. So if he got hold of the razor clam, he could use his 2 feet to suck on them, because each one has got a little sucker, hold onto the sides of it, yes, then pull it. But what they do, because they don't have any teeth, that bit there, which actually, he might be doing it now, that's actually his mouth. What they do is they actually throw up their stomach into the shell of the bivalve, and then they secrete all sorts of chemicals that digest it, and then they suck it back in and swallow in.
That's a bit creepy how they just
I think I'm a bit big.
Well, think about this, their mouth is also their bottom.
They pull their stomach out of their mouth, which is essentially also their butt.
Yes.
Then we headed to the rocks to find out all about how to forage for seaweed.
The best thing to do for all seaweeds, if you collect them, wash them in the salt water around it to get rid of any sand. And most of these are best if you dry them. There is one here that I'll show you that's not. But if you're harvesting seaweed, don't pull it up, because what you'll do is you'll pull the holdfast, which is the sucker that sucks onto the rock. And if you do that, you've killed the seaweed. This is a bit like a deciduous tree, in that if you cut off the leaves, they will grow back. So if you cut it off with scissors and then you leave behind the bit that's stuck to the rock, then it will just grow back again. And if you just take up to a third of it, then you'll do it sustainably, so they'll never be running out of seaweed. Every time you go back, they'll have replaced it. Okay? And if you're harvesting them, when you're cutting your seaweed, you need to make sure it is fresh, and you need to make sure it's still alive. So although we saw loads of seaweed washed up on the sandy shore there, you wouldn't eat that, because you want stuff that's still on the rocks, that's still growing. And seaweed, although it's a plant, it doesn't have any roots. It has what's called a holdfast, which is what this is at the bottom of this stem. And that sticks onto the rock. And if you cut this off, or you pull it off by pulling the seaweed that way, then you will kill the whole plant. Because a bit like deciduous trees, in the autumn time, the leaves on the end, which is what this would have, the fronds we call them, those actually die and fall off. That's why you get seaweed washed up, or they get broken off in storms. The stem carries on living, and so does the holdfast. So if you want to harvest something, you need to find it on the rocks, take scissors, lift it up off the rocks, and then you just cut a third of it off. So leave 2/3 behind, and then you've got your seaweed here, and that will just grow again, and you know that next time you come, you'll still have a population of seaweed. This one here that you see on the rocks that looks like a black bag, this is lava or nori. It's the same seaweed. So if you've had sushi, the bit that's outside your sushi rolls, that's nori, that's this. So all you have to do to make it into sushi nori is you just open it out, lie it in the sun to dry. Won't take too long if it's a sunny day. When it's dry, that's it, you got it. That's all you need to do. Or you can crush it up, because you can crush it up and then flatten it again and make it into nori like that. Or you can crush it up and turn it into salt, so it could be like seaweed salt, and you can just use it to season things. If you want to make lava bread, you need to simmer this for 6 hours. Then you need to cook it, fry it in bacon fat, then mix it with oatmeal and make it into cakes. So that's a lot of effort. And to be honest, I'd go to Swansea Market because it's probably a lot better than you'd probably get. But making your own nori, that's really quite easy. Very easy to identify is the one that looks like a black bag. So that's probably your easiest one.
Now what is the orange one?
This one. This one is kelp, which lives on your stem here. This is found at the furthest bit there. All these are kelp. And these got a lovely salty flavour, but even if you cook them for hours, they will always be really leathery.
No,
So-
I mean the green.
Oh, we'll get to the green one because that's the one you can actually eat.
What's this one?
That's the same as these. So these are all kelp, but that one's, see, it's been knocked off. Oh, it's actually knocked off its barnacles. So that one's a dead one, but it won't grow again. But if you want to use these, you can cut them up and put them into soup a bit like a bay leaf and then take them out and they'll add lots and lots of nice minerals and vitamins, but also a nice salty flavour. Or you can wrap your fish in it and cook it like that and then get rid of it. So you can use it as something that just gives a lot of salt. That one is the lava. It's not very nice to eat before you've actually cooked it. It's better to dry it. So if you want to eat it, you can. Anything you want to eat, give it a really good wash in the water because that gets rid of the sand. And then just put a bit in your mouth. You can try the kelp, but you might want to chew it and then just spit it out because it's never going to get chewy enough so you want to swallow it. The best one to eat raw, again, find it on the rocks, pull it out nice and flat and then cut it off with scissors, or you can just rip this, just make sure you don't pull the hole fast. This is sea lettuce, and sea lettuce you can eat raw. So give it a wash and then you can just take a little bit and eat it. It's pretty tasteless, it's salty.
It's not that one, though.
It doesn't taste very much. That one there that you've got, can I hold that one? So that one looks a bit like sea lettuce, but it's all tangled up. This one again you can eat. This is gutweed, because it's meant to look like guts. And this is what they use, or you can use, to make seaweed from Chinese restaurants. So if you fry this up, you get crispy seaweed, and it's really nice. So again, nicer when it's cooked, but you can try a bit if you want. But this is the sea lettuce. Do you want some of the sea lettuce?
I will mention that most crispy seaweed from Chinese restaurants is actually cabbage. Kale.
Kale,
Yeah.
or some kale derivative.
Is this?
That's the sea lettuce, yeah. But again, if you want to cook that, if you chop it up
That's lava.
and just add it to mashed potatoes or fish, again you get really nice flavour, nicer than the actual just raw.
Is this sea lettuce?
That's sea lettuce. This one here, so this is spaghetti. So you can literally use this as spaghetti. Again, you just boil it up, and it actually is quite high in protein, so it's quite a good substitute. It's going to be gluten-free naturally,
You mean
and
this
yeah,
one?
probably low in carbs.
John, do you mean
So there you
this?
go, you've got some, yes, that's the seaweed. So again, you can use this as it. There is another one that looks more like hair, redder, and that you can use like noodles, and it breaks really easily. This one snaps off, yeah, there we go. So this one snaps really easily, and and if you get a bunch, cut it with scissors and then tie it into a knot, and then fry it, you can get crispy noodles. So you've got noodles, spaghetti, wrap your fish in. But I haven't found the best one for you to eat raw and to use raw, which is dulse. Also, a lot of this around, I did take a bit to show you. So this one,
Yeah.
if you look around, the big stuff that's flopping down, this is a rack. There's so many kinds. This is serrated rack, which is because we're on the lower shore. As we get further up, you're going to have channel rack, and you're going to have all lots of racks. These you can eat, but to be honest, the texture of it is just so chewy. Best thing to do, dry them, then pound them, turn them into a powder, and then just use it as a salt. So as a salt
Not the best
substitute.
one to go for.
No, but if you want to just make lots of it, this is the easiest because it's everywhere. So lots of this. Again, also you could wrap your stuff in it, your fish, etc. But the kelp is bigger.
Oh,
That is
that's
it.
worth
But
mentioning.
also, if you look, you've got an animal living on this one. This is a bryozoan, so if you look carefully, you might see all the little doors to its house. And if that actually gets eaten, you'll be eating an animal as well, which will be a bit crispy. Feels a bit like the
You don't want
shark
to be eating
skin.
that bit.
So you don't want to eat one that's like that. Find a naked one.
Best time to harvest seaweed is through the summer months during the growing season, and again, try to make sure you only take as much as you can consume. If you do dry it, it will last on your shelf for many months. I hope you enjoyed our Gower Society Youth Rock Pooling and Coastal Foraging visit, and if you want to see more virtual visits, then follow me on YouTube, #NatureDays, and there's lots more that you can see from Gower Society Youth.